Hey killers, you're watching Totally Half Baked, and today we're making Ruth Snyder's last meal.
Ruth Brown met her future husband Albert when she was only 19 years old. Albert Snyder was 32. He became infatuated with Ruth and began taking her out to expensive dinners, dancing, and shows. He proposed to her a short time after, and with the promise of a comfortable life, she said yes. Ruth Snyder quickly became pregnant and found that her relationship with Albert changed into a strained and argumentative one. Albert never recovered from the loss of his first love, Jessie Gouchard. Albert even wore a pin with the initials JG next to his heart. He would regularly tell Ruth that Jessie was the finest woman he'd ever met. He also kept a framed picture of Jessie in his and Ruth's bedroom. Ruth became angry and resentful of Albert. She started going out to clubs at night with Adam. This is where she met Judd Gray, a corset salesman with a wife and kids. Their affair began, they fell in love, and Ruth developed a plan to remove Albert from the picture permanently. She convinced Albert to sign a new insurance policy that would allow double indemnity, which would double the insurance payout if Albert was killed by an unsuspected act of violence. Ruth then convinced a reluctant Judd to help her kill her husband. Ruth Snyder and Judd Gray carried out a vicious attack on Albert. Judd bashed a sleeping Albert in the head. He woke up and began to fight for his life. Judd held Albert down while Ruth shoved chloroform-soaked rags in Albert's nose. Then the two finished the job by garroting Albert with a wire. The two killers then hid jewelry and trashed Ruth's home to make it look like a robbery gone wrong. The officers that arrived at the scene the next day noticed inconsistencies in Ruth's story and found the jewelry she claimed was stolen under her bed. The officers also found the JG pin that Albert wore on the ground. When they asked Ruth who JG was, she thought they meant Judd Gray and ended up inadvertently giving up her lover's name. The two were found guilty of murder and sentenced to death. On January 12, 1928, Ruth Snyder and Judd Gray were executed by electric chair in Sing Sing prison. We're going to start by taking chicken breast and using this meat tenderizer to flatten them to be about a little less than an inch thick. Now we're going to start making our wet dredging for breading the chicken by adding 3 eggs, whisking the eggs, and adding about 1/3 cup of flour. Now to make our panko dredge, take panko breadcrumbs, the Italian seasoning one, some Parmesan. I'm not really measuring, obviously. And some shredded Parmesan. And just as much parsley as feels right to you. And mix it, because you're an animal. And there you go. Now we have our wet dredge, just some plain all-purpose flour, and the dry panko dredge we made. And you're supposed to use a wet hand, dry hand technique, and I didn't do that. Then the egg, put it in the flour. Put it in the egg again. And then put it in the panko breadcrumb mixture. It's good to press the chicken into it so it actually sticks. Judd Gray revealed that Ruth attempted to kill Albert at least 7 times before enlisting his help. Now we're going to take some vegetable oil. Let it heat up to about 350 degrees. Drop our chicken in, and we're just going to let it get brown on both sides. It doesn't have to cook all the way through. Now we're going to take our chicken breasts and place them in a pan. This pan's about 3 inches deep. And take marinara sauce. And traditionally you put marinara sauce under the chicken, but I think it makes the chicken less crispy, so I'm just putting some on top. I take some shredded mozzarella, or fresh mozzarella if you're fancy. Put a healthy helping on top. And more parsley. We're going to bake that at about 400 degrees for about 25 minutes. Photography is not permitted during executions. Ruth Snyder's execution was caught on film by Tom Howard, a Chicago Tribune photographer. He used an inventive miniature plate camera strapped to his ankle to get the picture. This photograph was considered the most famous tabloid photo of the decade. Now for the Alfredo pasta. I'm going to take boiling water, add salt, add fettuccine, make enough for 10 people, and just throw some classic Alfredo sauce in there. Really difficult. And just set that aside for later. Ruth Snyder apparently loved ice cream because we're going to make a chocolate shake by obviously taking chocolate ice cream, milk, blending those two things together. We're going to make a second milkshake, strawberry ice cream, rinse and repeat. Here's your 2 milkshakes. And this girl wanted a bowl of ice cream to go with her 2 milkshakes. Scoop it and put it in a bowl. Ruth Snyder's last meal consisted of 2 milkshakes, a bowl of ice cream, Alfredo pasta, chicken Parmesan, and a 12-pack of grape soda.
Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. And what should they comment?
Comment below whether or not the milkshakes brought you to the yard.